Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this explosive edition of our special broadcast, where we dive deep into one of the most talked about incidents in daytime television history. Just last week, on the set of ITV's beloved Loose Women, a storm brewed that no one saw coming. Emma Thompson, the acclaimed actress known for her sharp wit and unapologetic activism, was invited as a guest to discuss her latest environmental campaign. The panel, featuring the fiery Denise Welch, alongside regulars like Kay Adams and Nadia Sawalha, was set for what promised to be a lively chat about climate change and women's roles in advocacy. But as the cameras rolled, tension simmered beneath the surface, ready to erupt like a volcano long dormant. Emma, fresh off her Oscar-winning legacy and recent speeches at global summits, arrived with her trademark elegance, dressed in a sustainable silk blouse that whispered of ethical fashion choices. Denise, ever the bold voice on the show for over 2 decades, leaned into her chair with that signature Geordie spark, her eyes twinkling with the anticipation of a good debate. The audience buzzed with excitement, unaware that this segment would spiral into chaos, leaving viewers across the nation glued to their screens in stunned silence. As the host introduced Emma, applause rippled through the studio, but Denise's subtle eye roll hinted at the clash to come. What started as a discussion on eco-friendly living quickly veered into personal territory, with Denise challenging Emma's celebrity-driven activism as preachy Hollywood nonsense. Emma, not one to back down, fired back with a pointed remark about the show's carbon footprint from its endless makeup sessions. The air thickened, and suddenly, the polite banter shattered. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a full-throated confrontation that exposed the raw underbelly of fame, feminism, and free speech in the glaring lights of live TV. As we unpack this moment by moment, we'll explore how two powerhouse women, both trailblazers in their fields, collided in a way that has sparked endless debates on social media, from Twitter threads dissecting every word to Instagram reels recreating the drama with dramatic filters. Emma's poised demeanor cracked just enough to reveal the passion that fuels her causes, while Denise's unfiltered style reminded us why she's a fan favorite and sometimes a lightning rod. But let's rewind to the build-up. Emma had been vocal about plastic pollution in the oceans, tying it to her new documentary that's already winning awards at film festivals. Loose Women, aiming to blend celebrity glamour with everyday women's issues, saw this as a perfect fit. Yet, Denise, who has her own history of outspoken views on everything from mental health to politics, felt the topic was being hijacked by elite voices disconnected from the working-class struggle. The segment opened innocently enough, with Emma sharing anecdotes from her travels to polluted beaches in the Pacific, her voice steady and evocative, painting pictures of marine life suffocating in discarded nets. The panel nodded along, but Denise interjected early, her tone laced with skepticism. "Love the passion, Emma, but let's be real, most of us can't jet off to exotic islands to hug turtles. We're stuck recycling our Tesco bags while the big polluters laugh all the way to the bank." It was a fair point, grounded in the gritty reality that resonates with Loose Women's core demographic of stay-at-home moms and shift workers. Emma, however, saw it as a dismissal of her genuine efforts, her cheeks flushing as she countered, "Denise, it's not about who does the hugging, it's about amplifying the voices that get drowned out. If celebrities like me don't use our platforms, who will?" The exchange escalated from there, words flying like sparks from a flint. Kay tried to mediate, her Scottish lilt soothing the rising heat, but it was futile. Nadia chimed in with a quip about reusable coffee cups, hoping to lighten the mood, but the damage was done. Viewers at home felt the shift, tweets pouring in like rain. "Emma's right, celebs must speak up," versus Denise is the voice of reason, calling out the hypocrisy. As the argument intensified, production whispers turned frantic behind the scenes, producers eyeing the clock and the potential for viral gold or disaster. Fast forward through the escalating barbs, and the studio atmosphere turned electric, charged with the kind of energy that makes live television both exhilarating and terrifying. Emma Thompson, her British accent sharpening like a blade, accused the panel of trivializing serious issues by turning every discussion into soundbite fodder for Middle England. It was a gut punch, aimed squarely at the heart of Loose Women's format, which thrives on relatable chit-chat laced with edge. Denise Welch, undeterred and fueled by years of defending her turf, retorted with a zinger that landed like a slap. "Darling, if you can't handle a bit of real talk without your feathers getting ruffled, maybe stick to scripted lines where you get retakes." The audience erupted half in laughter, half in outrage while the other panelists shifted uncomfortably, their smiles frozen like wax figures. Behind the cameras, floor managers signaled frantically, but the host, sensing the ratings spike, let it try just a tad longer. This was peak Loose Women, unscripted, unapologetic, and utterly unpredictable. But as Emma's frustration mounted, she gestured wildly, knocking over a water glass that cascaded across the table, soaking cue cards and eliciting a collective ooh from the crowd. It was a metaphor made manifest as spilled words, spilled water, emotions overflowing uncontainable. Denise, wiping droplets from her sleeve, seized the moment. "See, even your passion makes a mess." That's what happens when you force-feed opinions without listening. Emma, now standing partially from her seat, her face a mask of controlled fury, shot back, "Listening? I've been listening to the planet scream for years while shows like this distract with diet tips and divorce drama." The line drew cheers from eco-conscious viewers tuning in via the live stream, but in the studio, it felt like a declaration of war. Social media ignited instantaneously. Hashtags like #Emma vs Denise and #LooseWomen meltdown trended within minutes, with clips circulating faster than gossip at a school gate. Fans of Emma praised her for calling out shallow media, while Denise's loyalists hailed her as the queen of clapbacks, sharing memes of her iconic eye rolls from past episodes. This wasn't mere entertainment. It was a cultural flashpoint, mirroring divides in how women navigate power through collaboration or confrontation. As the argument peaked, with voices overlapping in a cacophony that drowned out the host's pleas for calm, production finally intervened. A producer's voice crackled over the earpiece, "Wrap it, now." But Denise, in full flow, ignored it, turning to Emma with a parting shot. "If you're so committed, why not fund the cleanup yourself instead of guilting us plebs?" Emma's response was icy, because privilege means responsibility. Denising not excuses. The tension snapped like a taut wire, and in the ensuing silence, the host awkwardly segued to an ad break, her laugh forced and brittle. Commercials for laundry detergent and life insurance played to a nation on tenterhooks, pausing only to refresh Twitter feeds ablaze with reactions. Post-break, the panel attempted normalcy, chatting about autumn fashion, but the elephant, or rather, the overturned glass, loomed large. Emma, receded but radiating frost, contributed minimally, her smiles as thin as rice paper. Denise, conversely, seemed invigorated, her banter sharper than ever, drawing laughs from the audience as if to reclaim the room. Off-air whispers suggested Emma requested a moment with producers, her team citing hostile environment. But sources close to the show insisted it was all part of the drama that keeps Loose Women topping charts. Reflecting on this build-up, it's clear the clash was seated in differing worldviews, Emma's global, intellectual lens versus Denise's street-smart, experiential one. Both valid, both vital, but combustible when fused under hot lights. As clips went viral, celebrities weighed in as Stephen Fry tweeted support for Emma's eloquence, while Joe Brand quipped that Denise could argue with a lamppost and win. The incident even sparked think pieces in The Guardian on the death of civil discourse in women's media, pondering if such blow-ups empower or erode female solidarity. Yet, in the raw immediacy of the moment, it was pure adrenaline, heart pounding, palms sweating, the thrill of watching two titans tilt. The commercial break ended with forced cheer, the host cracking a joke about spills and thrills that elicited polite chuckles. But the studio air hung heavy, thick with unspoken volleys yet to be fired. Emma Thompson, ever the professional, attempted re-engagement, pivoting to a softer topical. Her work with Refugessa, hoping to reclaim the narrative on her terms. Her voice softened, recounting harrowing tales from camps in Greece, her eyes misting with genuine empathy that momentarily disarmed the room. The audience leaned in, captivated by the shift from combat to compassion, and even Denise nodded, her expression softening to something akin to respect. For a fleeting beat, harmony reigned. Kay praised Emma's humanitarian streak, Nadia shared a personal story of aiding migrants, and the segment flowed like honey. Viewers at home exhaled, tweeting relief. Phew, they're back to being brilliant women together. But Denise, true to form, couldn't resist circling back, her interjection slicing the calm, admirable stuff. Emma, but isn't it rich that while you're saving the world one speech at a time, your films rake in millions from fossil fuel sponsors? It was a calculated jab, rooted in a real controversy from Emma's past project that had quietly funded by oil giants before she pulled out amid backlash. Emma's face hardened, the mist in her eyes evaporating into steel. Denise, if you're implying hypocrisy, check your own backyard. A loose women's wardrobe is a parade of fast fashion that chokes landfills faster than any movie set. The crowd murmured, a wave of whispers rippling outward, as the accusation struck at the show's core identity of accessible glamour. Denise's laugh was sharp, almost manic. Oh, please. We're not pretending to be saints, we're real women talking real lives. You swan in here with your BAFTAs and berate us for Primark dresses? Spare me. The exchange accelerated, words tumbling faster, laced with sarcasm and stung pride. Emma rose slightly again, her hands gesturing emphatically. It's not berating, it's awakening. If we don't call out the contradictions, nothing changes. Denise matched her intensity, leaning across the table. And if we don't ground it in reality, it's just noise from the nosebleeds. The host interjected futilely, ladies, let's keep it civil, but her words dissolved into the fray. Offstage, producers huddled, monitors flickering with incoming complaints and soaring viewership numbers, a toxic cocktail of crisis and cachet. This phase of the clash revealed deeper layers, Emma's idealism clashing against Denise's cynicism, not as personal attack but as philosophical pugilism. Social media dissected it frame by frame, with feminist podcasters lauding the unfiltered female rage and critics decrying it as catty chaos damaging the sisterhood. Clips amassed millions of views, spawning parodies on TikTok where users lip-synced the zingers with exaggerated expressions. As the argument looped into circleless hypocrisy, this authenticity theta, the energy tipped toward toxicity, voices straining, faces flushed. Emma, drawing on her dramatic training, delivered a monologue-like retort. I've spent decades fighting for the voiceless, from Narnia to the Arctic, while you've ranted on a sofa. It was harsh, reductive, and the audience gasped, sensing the low blow to Denise's storied career in theater and TV, from Coronation Street to her mental health advocacy. Denise's eyes flashed fire. Ranted, try survived, sweetheart. Try bipolar in the spotlight while the world watches you crack. Your fights are funded, mine are fought with fists up. The vulnerability slipped out unintended, a crack in the armor that humanized her fury, and for a split second, empathy flickered across Emma's features. But momentum overrode mercy. Emma pressed, survival doesn't excuse complacency on the issues that kill us all. The room polarized, the left side cheering Emma's zeal, the right backing Denise's grit. Production alarms blared internally with 5 minutes left in the hour. The decision loomed to cut losses or let it burn. Whispers from the control booth urged the host to enforce a hard pivot, perhaps to a pre-taped segment on baking disasters. Yet, the host hesitated, addicted to the raw drama that defines loose women legends. In hindsight, this hesitation was pivotal, allowing the simmer to boil over. Broader context enriches the tale. Loose Women has weathered storms before, from Andrea McLean's tearful exits to Colleen Nolan's cancer confessions, but celebrity guest blow-ups are rarer gems. Emma's visit was billed as a coup, her agent pitching it as empowering alignment, unaware of Denise's private gripes about woke warriors invading the chat. Denise, in her autobiography, has chronicled clashes with co-stars over politics, from COVID skepticism to trans rights, positioning herself as the anti-PC warrior. Their ideological Venn diagram overlaps on women's rights but diverges sharply on environmental urgency versus economic realism. As barbs flew, the audience became co-conspirators, their laughter and boos a soundtrack to the showdown. One viewer later blogged, "It was like watching lions in a coliseum, beautiful, brutal, and begging for mercy." And as the clock ticked mercilessly, the climax approached, the air crackling with inevitability. Emma's final push on Denise, Your sarcasm is the real pollutant here. He hung unanswered, Denise's mouth opening for rebuttal when the unthinkable happened. The floor manager stepped in, mic in hand, signaling the end. But the damage cascaded, words echoing in the stunned hush that followed. With the segment gasping its last breaths, the host's voice cut through like a lifeline tossed into turbulent seas. Emma, one last thought before we wrap up. What's your call to action for our viewers? It was a desperate Hail Mary, aiming to salvage grace from the wreckage. Emma, composing herself with the poise of a stage veteran, leaned into the mic, her tone resolute yet ragged. Simple: audit your lives, reduce your waste, vote with your wallet. The planet can't wait for perfect consensus. Applause swelled. A balm on the bruises, and for a heartbeat, redemption seemed possible. Denise, however, crossed her arms, her smirk a silent challenge, muttering just loud enough for the lapel mic to catch. Easy for you to say, with a personal chef and private jet. The words, "Tho sotto voce," boomed through the speakers, igniting the powder keg anew. Emma's head snapped up, her composure fracturing like glass under pressure. Excuse me? That's not just unfair, it's libelous. I've divested from flying for years. The audience buzzed, a hive disturbed, as Denise shrugged theatrically. Libelous? It's loose women, not libel court. Grow a spine or stick to voiceovers. The escalation was volcanic. Emma slamming her palm on the table, the thud reverberating like thunder. This isn't debate, it's derailment by a bitter has-been clinging to relevance. Gasps echoed. The slur has been slicing deeper than any policy critique, a dagger to Denise's legacy of sold-out stage runs and best-selling memoirs. Denise bolted upright, her chair scraping harshly. Bitter? I'm the one keeping it real while you play savior from Hampstead. Get off your high horse before you fall off. Chaos reigned. The host's appeal said, enough, ladies. A drowned in the din, panelists frozen in witness mode, Kay whispering oh God under her breath. In the control room, panic buttons flashed. Viewership peaked at unprecedented levels, but at what cost? The floor manager, a burly veteran of countless meltdowns, waded in, his face grim as he approached Emma's side. Ms. Thompson, we need to pause this, he murmured, but Emma waved him off. Locked in combat. No pause, you finish what you started. Denise, veins bulging in her neck, leaned in. Finished? You're the one who crashed the party with your sanctimonious sermon. If you can't take the heat. The ellipsis hung, but the implication scorched. Get out. That's when it happened. The producer's directive barked over comms. Cut her mic. Escort now. With mechanical precision, the sound tech flipped the switch. Emma's next words: this is outrageous. You can't say, muffled to static hum. The audience murmured in disbelief as the manager gently but firmly guided Emma by the elbow toward the exit, her protests visual but silent. Face a storm of indignation. Denise sank back, chest heaving, a mix of triumph and twinge crossing her features, while the host filled dead air with babble about passionate discussions. Cameras caught it all. Emma's defiant stride down the aisle, pausing to mouth unbelievable to a stunned fan in the front row. The panel exchanging loaded glances, the crew averting eyes. Outside the studio, Emma's publicist waited, phone in hand, already drafting statements as flashes from paparazzi pierced the loading dock gloom. Back inside, Denise quipped to break the ice. Well, that was lively, drawing nervous laughter, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of regret amid the adrenaline crash. Social media imploded. Kicked off loose women topped trends, with 500,000 tweets in the hour, split down ideological line as Emma's supporters decrying censorship of dissent, Denise's cheering boundaries enforced. News outlets pounced. BBC Newsnight teased a segment on celebrity accountability, while tabloids splashed Thompson tossed, Welch's win, with photoshopped ejection seats. This climactic eruption wasn't isolated. It echoed Denise's past skirmishes, like her 2021 dust-up with Matt Hancock over lockdowns, where she stormed off mid-debate, earning her the moniker Denise the Destroyer. For Emma, it recalled her 2019 Oscars speech interruption, a pattern of voices amplified then abruptly silenced. The mechanics of the kickoff were textbook crisis management, mic-cut to prevent legal landmines, escort to de-escalate physically, post-show spin to reframe as robust exchange.